Okay, I do not know how she did that. Does anybody know how she did that? It's amazing. Yeah, it was great. Okay. So recently I heard about this plane crash. There were 4 passengers in this little plane, only 3 parachutes. So the first passenger is like, hey, I'm a heart surgeon. I've got people waiting. I'm out of here. He grabs a parachute and jumps out. Next guy says, I'm a rocket scientist. I am the smartest man in the world. And I am here for a reason. And he grabs and jumps. That leaves this 14-year-old and the Pope. And the Pope is like, son, you have a long life ahead of you. Take that parachute. And he looks at the Pope. He says, no. He says, we're good. We're really good. The smartest man in the world grabbed my backpack. This month is all about embracing our power. This month is all about our power tools, right? And the first week I talked about the power of enthusiasm, not that, hey, yeah, look who won the World Series, kind of enthusiasm, but that enthusiastic part of us that gets up in the morning and says, thank you, God, this is going to be a grand day. That enthusiastic part of us that when things become a challenge, we just sort of look in the mirror and say, okay, so enthusiastic to see how you're going to solve this one, that kind of stuff. And it's about knowing how big our God is and being excited just about that, even when there's nothing else going on. That kind of enthusiasm. And last week, Reverend Joanne talked about this idea of faith. To stay in faith, to stay in communication with yourself, with your higher self, with the one. And with that, we can not only thrive, but we can gloriously get through anything. So are you noticing a little trend here? It's all about within. That's it. It's all about within. That our power comes from that place of oneness. As Rumi said, we are not a drop in the ocean, but we are the ocean in a drop. It's about knowing that all that we need is always available to us. If we're willing to slow down, take a minute, just take a beat, and not react. To know that the only parachute we really need is that of spirit. It is that one divine guiding light. And it allows each of us to be more than one. More than one. It allows us to all be connected. It allows us to be all-knowing and all-powerful. So today, I want to talk about this idea of plugging into that power within. Because it's easy to stay plugged in when things are going great. Not so easy when things are challenging. But plugging in is the same no matter what. So I want to look at the idea of remembering that truth of one. Then entrusting that truth. And of course, staying in gratitude, because after all, it's November. So, Emma Curtis Hopkins, I quoted this the first Sunday. We have unlimited power. If we do not use that power, it does not alter the fact that it is our inheritance. Think about that. Anytime that we're thinking, moving, feeling, taking action, we are doing that in divine partnership with God. That partner that just wants to say, hey, I'm here, can I help? Can I provide some direction, some guidance, some support, some love? Always, we are always using that power. The founder of Science of Mind, the author of the textbook, wrote, "The thing then," which he means God, "works for us by working through us and is us always." It cannot work for us in any other way. It spreads itself over the whole universe and shouts at us from every angle. But it can become power to us only when we recognize it. Only when we recognize it. So let's stay tuned into that. One of my favorite authors, John Randolph Price, wrote this book, Nothing's Too Good. Isn't that a great title? Nothing's Too Good. And he suggests that we dismiss all concepts and images of God as an entity separate and apart, or as a demander of justice or punishment, because God is absolute goodness, total givingness, does not know the concept of sin, does not understand punishment or require it, has created a universe of beauty for itself, and has expressed as you individual consciousness and given this your kingdom. This isn't just our world, this is our kingdom. It isn't just our life, it is our kingdom. Think about that. Your kingdom of peace and plenty where life is to be enjoyed to the fullest. The vision, God's vision, is one of completeness, perfect body, financial plenty, ideal relationships, fulfilling creative achievement. And since this is a vision above, so it is below. Isn't that powerful? New Thought author Emily Cady puts it this way. God is power, not simply has power, but God is power. In other words, all the power there is to do anything is God. God is the source of existence of every moment, not just simply omnipotent, but all-powerful. All-powerful, all-power, all-knowing. God is not a being having qualities, but rather God is the good itself. Good, the good itself. It is that good itself that is in divine partnership. Think about that, shouting at us from every angle. And when we start to tap into that power, when we start to not listen to our ego, not listen to those voices about perfect image or perfect life or perfect relationship or perfect whatever, right? All of that is someone else's concept of perfection. What should matter to each of us more than any of that is what is our idea of perfect. Because when we get clear on that idea, and we get clear on the fact that the truth is that is what we are here to express as the perfection of God in our image, in our likeness, right? When we get clear on that, there's no stopping us. Because all of a sudden, we've crossed that vibration path, right? You guys have all seen that vibration scale, right? Like love is like as high as you could possibly vibrate. And hate is sort of as low as you could go, I think. Maybe you can go lower than hate. I don't remember. But it's down there, way down there. And so when we allow ourselves to not use anybody else's version of perfect, of good, of right, but our own, we're now crossing that middle line to that upper vibration. And it is in that upper vibration that allows us to be that transformative light in the world, that allows us to say, yes, this too is good. It allows us, as Dennis shared this morning, to see beyond the chaos and remember that we're all one, and there's more good to that one than not. And being plugged into that power, it's all up to us. Holmes talks about electricity, right? There's always electricity. It's a matter of plugging into it. There's always a vibration of love. There's always a power of goodness. We just need to plug into it. And not just when we're down and out, but to always remember throughout the day that it's the one. And then to take that next step and trust. Think about how many things we trust every day. We trust that the bank will keep our money. We trust, well, okay, most of us. We trust that, the food we're buying at the grocery store isn't rotten or spoiled, right? That it's been properly taken care of, that it's been properly canned, right? We somewhat trust that people will stop at red lights sooner or later, right? We trust in the pilot on the plane. We trust that the mechanic did what the mechanic needed to do. I mean, we trust a lot, if you think about it. Every day, we trust that people are going to follow the rules. And what makes society work, right? Those rules are good rules. But we trust out there. In our humanness, we trust. But how much more exponentially potential goodness can come when we trust in spirit and our connection to spirit in the exact same way. Just as often. What if we trusted that inner guide and we courted that inner guide and we talked to that inner guide as much as we do our best friend? Think about it. That trust, the more we build on that trust, the more natural it becomes, the less we have to work at it. All of a sudden, it's not about a spiritual practice for 20 or 30 minutes in the morning. It's about a spiritual practice throughout the day. When we trust spirit through trusting ourselves, right? We take all that time that we spend in worry and in doubt and gathering opinions, right? We take all of that and we take that time and we put it into knowing our truth. We put it into saying thank you for just the simplest things. If you just think about it, if you didn't worry at all during the day, you had no worry, how much time would you have? I mean, think about it. Yeah. I'd have a lot more, right? And yet, do we do that? It has been proven, and I've proven it, and I think any of us here who meditate on a regular basis has proven it. You take out 15 minutes to meditate, and somehow you have gained time in your day, right? That 15 minutes of meditation, that's 15 minutes of trusting. And it comes back to us pressed down and multiplied every single time. But you don't know it until you miss a day. And then at the end of the day, you're like, whoa, why was this day so crazy? Well, for me, my day is crazy if I haven't meditated, if I haven't done my inspirational reading for the day, if I haven't taken time just to breathe. I mean, you guys, let's just take a minute. Let's just breathe, okay? Just breathe. Just breathe. It feels so good when you take that conscious breath. It's amazing what happens. It's amazing what happens when we think positive without being a Pollyanna, when we allow ourselves to be directed and guided. And I'm going to ask Monty to come up. He knew I was going to make him do this, so Monty's going to come up. Monty's got something to share with you as it relates to being plugged in.
Still in the works. So some of you may know in the past I've done projects on rehabbing kind of rundown duplexes, giving them new life and finding new tenants that care for them just as much as they would their own home. That was kind of the vision that I've had on projects, and fortunately, the ones I've done so far, that's come to pass. One day as I was about to wrap up one project, I was just driving on my way from one to the other. They're relatively in the same neighborhood, within about 6 blocks of one another. And I was driving past one house, and I just kind of glanced up at it. I never really had noticed it before, but I've driven this path several times, hundreds of times. And I just looked up, and I'm like, that duplex looks like it could use a little love. And I just kind of looked at it. It looks like, oh, it's a nice size, a corner lot, but nothing really occurred too much. I just kind of drove on my way. And then 2 days later, I got an email alert that that particular property was about to go on the market, was about to be listed. So I followed up and put in an offer on it, and hopefully in the next 24 hours I'll find out more about it. But I saw it as interesting, right as I'm wrapping something else up and about to start something else, that one just kind of appeared at the right time. So, yeah, that's it.
What Monty didn't share is that he has been thinking more about God throughout the day.
Yeah.
That he's been taking time throughout the day and just being grateful and just thinking about his source. Isn't that lovely? It's been shown by animal behaviorists that when a dog rolls over on his back and starts wagging its tail, it's not just because it wants a belly rub, although it enjoys a belly rub, right? But it's really a gesture of ultimate love and trust. It is now exposing all of its vital organs, trusting, showing you that it trusts you no matter what. That's been proven in the Joy of Trivia book. They've got all of the details in case you want to know if it's true. But isn't that a great image? Just like, use me, right? It's like, use me. Now, I'm not suggesting that we meditate exposing our bellies, but if it's your thing, who are we to judge? But being vulnerable when we're in communion with Spirit is so important to staying plugged in. We don't need to come to God with all of the answers. We don't. We need to have a clear understanding of what we want in our life. We have to have a clear vision of who and what we want to become, right? I mean, I'm not saying don't have a list, but when we commune with God, we do spiritual mind treatment, our prayer. That's sort of like talking to God. That's like saying, okay, here's what a perfect relationship looks like for me, and I'm ready. Here's this, here's that, whatever it is. But when we meditate, that's when we're listening to God. That's when we should be vulnerable. That's when we should be open to just hearing what it has to say. And sometimes it says a lot. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's a feeling that comes out. But the more and more regular our meditation is, the more vulnerable we are in it, the more willing we are to say, I believe, but help me in my disbelief. The more willing we are to do that, I believe the more powerful the meditation is and the more clear the message becomes. I love this story about Myrtle Fillmore. She and her husband founded the Unity Churches, and they had a publishing company, and the publishing company was really starting to suffer financially. And someone on her staff during a meeting said, we need to pray that the money holds out. And Myrtle was like, no, we need to pray that our belief and trust in Spirit holds out. See the difference? We're not here to do anything alone. We truly aren't. Jack Boland, who's a New Thought author, wrote, "My part is to believe, God's part is to provide all that is needed." Imagine living life from that place. I believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. Because at times, we all have that unbelief. Because there's stress, and there's uncertainty, and there's war, and there's poverty, and there's, right? The list goes on. But at any point, we can stop, look up, and make a conscious decision to trust Spirit, trust God, trust the thing itself, trust whatever you want to call it. Because those conscious choices are ours to make. And we get to change our mind as often as we want. Isn't that great? Not just the women, everybody. Everybody, no matter what. We can trust ourselves, we can trust Spirit, we can remember that we're all one, we're all connected, and we all get to change our mind. And when we change our mind, we change our course in life. So in addition to meditation, as Sue so wonderfully read this morning, it's also about gratitude. And the author of that is unknown. I have like a pile of papers and stuff with things that I love, and I didn't always remember to write the author down. But I want to thank whoever wrote that, because it's true, right? Gratitude is that tapestry in our life that holds our life together, and it holds us together. And gratitude also keeps us on the plus side of that vibrational scale. It truly does. So, that takes me to your assignment this week, and you actually have two. In case you haven't noticed, and if this is your first Sunday, you picked a great Sunday. This is like Pumpkin Day, which means we've got nothing but a plethora of sweets. We are so abundant in this center, so abundant. Lots and lots of sugar over there. And while we're sharing our sugar rush, I invite us to share something that we're grateful for. And maybe even, if you're brave enough, to share a challenge that either you're going through and you know it's going to be good in the end, or a challenge you've gone through and it turned out so wonderful that it's just making your heart burst. That's number one. Number two, go home and think about how often you remember that God's got your back. Think about how much trust you really do have in Spirit. And what can you add to your daily world to make it more apparent to you? Right? Alicia does Post-it notes, right? Someone I know has a gratitude rock they carry around, and it's like whenever things get too bad, they just sort of like reach in their pocket and start rubbing. Anyway, so there's lots and lots of things rubbing the rock. There's lots of things that we can do to just help us remember our truth. And with that, I'd like to ask you to join me in prayer. This will be a spiritual mind treatment. I'm going to say it in the first person. Take it in. Oh, in this moment, I start with gratitude because I am so thankful. I am thankful for this teaching, for this community, for this gathering. I am thankful for the very thing itself. It is that which sustains me, guides me. It is that which works through, for, and as me, experiencing its creation as I experience my life. And it is from that place that right here and right now, I command a greater expression, a greater experience, and a greater recognition of goodness. I release whatever is standing in my way of stepping into that place of a well-lived life. Any thoughts, any habits, any beliefs, I don't need to name them. I can just let them go. As I step into my power, as I step into the power, the presence, I step into the acknowledgement of the One. And I do so without hesitation because I declare that I am ready to be a brighter, transformative light, to live in greater expression, and to stay always in gratitude. As I release these words, I do so knowing that God's doing all of the heavy lifting. I do so knowing that I allow time and space for God to do that work. And I just say thank you for all that has been, all that is, all that will be, knowing that all is well and all will be well. And so it is. So it is. And in closing, Proverbs 3:2. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Let that be our mantra for today. Thank you all.